So this is all about add-on matrix, where we'll be analyzing the athlete or matching the athlete with the pre-event, event, and post-event related aspects. According to each and every sports or each and every athlete, this matrix will change. We have to modify the matrix according to the sports and the events. Now, there are some general injury prevention strategies in sports. One is warm-up, stretching, taping and bracing, protective equipments, environment, appropriate training, sports psychology, nutrition. These are some of the techniques or strategies. Very few I have mentioned. There are various other techniques also is there for injury prevention program. These are some of the few sports injury prevention strategies which everyone must know in a basic level. So related to warm-up, can anyone answer how warm-up will be effective? How warm-up will be benefiting the athlete? Why we do warm-up?
So to prevent the risk of injury.
Prevents the risk of injury. Any other, how it helps to prevent the risk of injury, warm-up? How it is going to prevent the risk of injury?
By bringing in more blood supply to the muscles and also including
louder,
stretching in the bringing in the blood flow to the muscles will help.
Okay.
And then including stretching is also helpful.
Yes, Mr. Karthik, thank you. You are correct. So it improves the blood flow. It stretches the tissue. All these things are included. So warm up, why we do is generally to prepare the athlete mentally and physically to prevent injury and to improve the performance enhancement. So all these aspects should be considered in an effective warm up program. So here, if we do warm up, the sports, if you see the speed of movement, the speed of body movement or the speed of activity will be more in sports. There will be rapid muscle contraction and relaxation that will be taking place in the sports. That rapid contraction and relaxation, if it is not happening, that results in sports injuries. So warm-up helps to improve rapid muscle contraction and relaxation. Second is it improves the rate of force development. It improves the muscle strength and power. It reduces the viscous resistance. This is a very important reason why we do warm-up. It reduces the viscous resistance in muscles. If the viscous resistance in muscle is very high, that is one of the most common reasons that results in injury. If anyone takes ice packs or exposed to ice before the event or before the training program, that increases the viscous resistance. So this is one of the reasons why people tend to do warm-up, heat the body tissue so that the viscous resistance will be reduced in the muscles. Injuries will never happen. So warm-up is very essential to reduce the viscous resistance. It, as Karthik told, it increases the blood flow by Bohr effect. In Bohr effect, the dissociation of oxygen from the hemoglobin will be increased. Warm-up increases temperature. Temperature will activate the Bohr effect. When the temperature is increased, oxygen will be easily got detached from the hemoglobin and it will make easily available for the muscles to utilize the oxygen. So increased blood flow to active muscles. They need some nutrition to work. For increased blood flow is required metabolism, enhanced metabolic reaction. These are some of the benefits of warm-up. But how to do warm-up? We have a ramp model. Ramp model means each and every word has an abbreviation. R stands for raise, A stands for activate, M stands for mobilize, P stands for potentiate. Raise body temperature, raise the heart rate, raise the respiratory rate, raise the blood flow, raise the joint viscosity. Muscle viscous resistance we have to reduce, but joint viscosity has to be increased. Then only movement will happen freely. So we have to raise these aspects in warm-up. we have to choose a suitable warm-up program which will raise all these variables: body temperature, heart rate, respiratory rate, blood flow, joint viscosity. A stands for activate. Activate the key muscle involved in the sports event or sports training program. M stands for mobilize. You have to move the joint or mobilize the joint ROM. So that is one of the reasons why we do mobilize. The joint which and all is involved in the sports, those joints have to be moved, or those joints has to be mobilized. So M is for mobilize. We have to always do some mobilization activity also in sports. It's not only about resistance exercise or some stretches. We have to do some mobilization program, self-mobilization or active mobilization. Then the last is increase the intensity of the warm-up. So you will not increase the intensity of the warm-up all of a sudden. You will increase in the last 5 minutes or last few minutes of the warm-up program. Potentiate. So you will be stimulating the same event or same activities which you are going to do in the main event or in the sports or in the training program will be done in the potentiate or post-activate potentiation phase of the warm-up. The total warm-up period should not exceed 20 to 30 minutes. It should be like less than 20 or 30 minutes. If it is exceeding 20 or 30 minutes, that's it. By performing warm-up itself, we will get fatigue and that results in injury. The second aspect is stretching. Always warm-up has to be done prior to the stretching program. Stretches has to be up to the point of tension but not create any pain. There are various different types of stretches are there: PNF stretch, ballistic stretch, dynamic stretch, static stretch. It starts from the good or effective to the least effective. Static stretch is very safer, but it is not effective for athletes. PNF stretch, ballistic stretch, dynamic stretch are very effective for athletes, those who are not having injury and those who are wanted to improve their performance. They have to do any one of these type of stretching program. And studies have proven that these three stretching program, PNF, ballistic or dynamic, improves the performance and increases the neural activation. The third strategy is taping and bracing. Bracing means the external applicant. Taping is using the rigid tape or K tape for injury prevention. So taping is used for preventive and proprioceptive functions. K tape is not a tape for preventative aspect. It will be helpful only for proprioception function. K tape is not going to prevent any injuries or do anything. Proprioception, it may help to some extent. There are various studies available that K tape is not effective, or it is just psychologically it assists the individuals. Most of the studies does not reports that there is no effect with K tape. For preventative aspect, prevention of injuries, we have to go for rigid tapes or elastic adhesive tapes. Even the same rigid elastic adhesive tapes are used for protective aspects also. Then the protective equipments, helmet, face shield, according to the sports and the permit has been granted, we have to utilize protective equipments such as helmet, face shield, knee pad, shin pad, shoulder pad, all these things, wrist guard, gum shield, glove. These are some of the protective equipment shall be considered in the sports. And all these protective equipment needs permission to carry out, to include in the sports event or by the for utilization by the athletes. And also choosing suitable protective equipment according to the athlete's anthropometry. If the protective or if the equipment or the protective equipment is not choosing the athlete, that also will result in injury. It should be like sports specific and choose the it should be appropriate to the anthropometry of the athlete. The reason is defective equipment increases the risk of injury. So that's why always a suitable protective equipment is recommended for sports. Environment, extreme heat can produce when the temperature is too high, that results in heat cramps. When the temperature is low or a very cold environment, that results in hypothermia, frostbite. So the athlete should consider about his clothing and training intensity while training. If you have seen the test matches, cricket matches, they'll be wearing white color. Most of the test cricket matches, 5 days they are going to play. They are going to play in the under the temperature, and the core temperature also will increase while they are playing, running, fielding, batting, or bowling. So the cricketers, they used to wear white color clothing during the test matches, and when it comes to one day or T20, it becomes color, or according to the team they will change. So even tennis, a badminton, most common the clothing will be like white color. They choose white color cloths or black color according to the temperature where they are going to play. So clothing and is also one of the aspects we have to consider in the should be considered by the athlete according to the environment where he is going to do the performance. And training intensity, when the temperature is too high, the environmental temperature is too high, the intensity has to be modified according to that. Because too much high intensity training in a already high temperature environment, that increases the core temperature further and leads to various adverse effects. Body biomechanics is one of the strategy what physiotherapist and movement science therapist has to re-educate or teach the athlete. Correction of postural deviations has to be considered, because postural deviations always results in muscle imbalances. Upper cross, example, upper cross syndrome or lower cross syndrome. Those things will result, put the more stress on certain muscle group, and certain muscle group can't able to withstand the stress and leads to injury. Especially bowling actions, throwing mechanism, where high velocity of movement will be performed. If there is already a partial deviation or poor technique, that definitely leads to injuries and other consequences. Cool down. Once the event is over or following the event, all the athletes has to, most of the coaches or athletes forget about cool down. By the time they finish the training or by the time they finish their event is over, or if they win event, or if the victory is towards their side, they forget about cool down. They just go and take rest, or they go for the other next event, or they just go and take rest. The cool down also has to be considered. What we do in cool down generally, what happens in cool down, why we have to consider cool down. Why we consider cool down, what happens in cool down especially. Cool down generally it is done following the training or after the event is over. The main benefits of cool down is to recover the athlete, slow down. You are warming up, increasing the heart rate, respiratory rate, blood flow. When the training program or when the main event happens, the heart rate, respiratory rate, blood flow, and all the metabolic reactions will be in the peak. All of a sudden, if you stop the activity and go and sit down or just change your environment, it won't help. So you have to cool down so that gradually you are reducing it. You are from high intensity to low intensity, you have to gradually cool down so that the homeostasis will be maintained. Otherwise it will result in a very immediate abrupt shutdown that causes some shock or damage to the body tissues. So cool down should be a mandatory program in all the athletic events or in all training programs. So these are all the strategies what we have to consider or we have to follow whenever any athlete is participating or is involved in sports related activities. Considering these, there are already developed a program, sports injury prevention program. If anyone of you might have came through FIFA 11, it has been there for past nearly 1 decade. 10 years it has been followed recently, but very few RCTs or very few studies have been done in FIFA 11 prevention program. It is whatever studies has been done, it has shown that FIFA 11 program is effective in reducing 11.5% of incidence of injuries in football. It is approved by FIFA. That's why it is called as FIFA 11 program. It is done during the pre-season. So it will be having nearly 20 to 30 minutes of exercise program, which includes stretching, strengthening, balance, everything. But we don't have more research work or more literature related to the effectiveness of FIFA 11 training program, or do we need to modify the FIFA 11, add some exercise program in the FIFA 11, or using FIFA 11 as a concept, can we use can we develop some other football injury prevention program? That kind of researchers are lagging in our literature. And knee control programs. So these are the prevention programs I'm telling for lower limb related sports, contact sports. Knee control program will be having it's a exercise program which will be done during the preseason. It will be having set of exercises done to prevent knee injuries. It will be including it has a conventional method, conventional knee control program, and a revised or modified recent version of knee control program. Two different versions are there. It helps to decrease ACL injuries. The knee control program. What are the exercises that comes under knee control program? If you implement it to the athletes, it helps to reduce the ACL injuries. Rugby is one of the event where more sports injuries are reported, or more casualties or catastrophic events are reported, especially to the neck injuries. Any catastrophic neck injuries or cervical spine injuries will leads to quadriparesis or quadriplegia. The athlete will be completely become disabled or losing his life, the rest of his life, because of the disability. So there is a Rugby Smart injury prevention program developed. It has a set of exercises. It includes techniques, how to techniques for the ball carrier and the tackling person, how to carry the ball and how to tackle the ball, the way of tackling, so that both the carrier and the tackling person will not get injury. That will be given, or that will be trained under Rugby Smart sports injury prevention program, along with some exercises. Technique is also considered in that. Book Smart Safe 6 injury prevention program. It has certain 6 injuries which will reduce spinal cord injuries or spinal vertebrae injuries in junior players involved in rugby. Tackling rugby injury. It helps to reduce 50% of decrease. It involves more of technique and some exercise program, strengthening program. And this tackling rugby injury prevention program, if we follow that, it helps to reduce 50% of decrease in the incidence of rugby related injuries, overall injuries. So these are all some of the injury prevention programs which is already being existing. So being a physiotherapist, or if anyone of us who is listening or in participating in this presentation or in this webinar can also think about collecting some data, finding some prevention program which will be suitable for their sports team, or for their performance centers, or for their athletes, so that it is helpful for them also. It can be a guideline for the students or for the people who are seeking some data related to sports injury prevention program. It will be helpful in that way also. So finally, we conclude it by considering that sports injury prevention is always a complex problem. As we saw, the cause is internal and external. Internal further classified into modifiable, non-modifiable, and rules of the sport. That is another thing that plays a major role. Rules and the psychology of the individual, plus the stakeholders, coaches, the managers, team managers, when it involves everyone, and it is an athlete-centered program. So sports injury prevention is always a complex issue. It involves multifactorial person. It's a teamwork. Without the team involvement, without the coaches and everyone's collaboration, it cannot be achieved positive. You cannot be able to achieve the objective of this sports injury prevention thing. So everyone has to have adequate knowledge or information regarding it, and they have to come together and work together as a team, so that they can make a particular sports injury prevention program as a very effective one. And also national or worldwide, it's a medical issue that has to be considered, especially for physiotherapists has a major role to play in this. So the take home message from the sports injury prevention program is 3 things. One is that Van McLean continuum. First, you have to find out the incidence, find out the mechanism, find out the effective intervention program, implement it, find out its effectiveness, and then monitor how many injuries are happening and repeat the same. If you are a sports physiotherapist, you have to follow it. I suggest that if you follow that Van McLean program, you will able to identify, you will improve by yourself. That is one aspect. Second is, whenever you are dealing with any injury, pre-event, post-event, or during the event, try to follow Haddon's matrix. And third is always follow all the general strategies, warm up, stretching, how to, the warm up itself, many people might have not aware about that ramp strategy, RAMP. If you, whatever we are doing for the athlete, we have to know why we are doing. We have to ask that question, why we are doing or what we are doing. If we go in that way, the athlete will definitely recover from the injuries, or we will be knowing what we are doing. We can able to improve the recovery, fasten the recovery, and make the athlete return safely back. Returning to sports is not a big thing, but returning very safely to sports is very important. You rehabilitate an athlete, you send him back to the sports. Within another 5 minutes or 10 minutes, he's coming back with the same injury, same spot, same side. That's one of the worst scenarios. So that should never happen. So we have to follow. We have to be very systematic. We have to follow some protocol in our work environment, especially while dealing with athletes. So that reduces the sports injuries, sports related injuries. And so that it's a sports, all the sports will be national. It's a like very pride or a proud thing for the people. And it's a competing thing. It's very important for everyone. Thousands or millions of people will be expecting an athlete to perform very well. And when we are having a chance to deal with such an athlete, we have to give our maximum so that the athlete able to perform very good. And we are doing our work very efficiently. So 3 things we have to consider. One is about the Van Necklein's continuum. Second is Adam's matrix. Then all the strategies, general strategies, we will be considering for sports injury prevention program. Any doubts from the participants? I think most of the participants have dropped out from the first thing. Any doubts or anything to discuss? So how many of the participants are from any athletic related to athletes or working with athletes? I think Pragyan, Saroj, I hope they are working with athletes. Any doubts? Mr. Madan?
Yes, sir, it was a nice presentation, and we had our MPT sports finalist students are also participated in this.
Yes,
They
yes.
have been watching your webinar, sir. It was a nice presentation, sir. And sir, is there any standard book can you suggest for us for postgraduate students for the injury prevention program, sir?
Mr. Madan, injury prevention program. I won't recommend books. What I recommend is students has to read the research work that has been carried out in the past 5 to 10 years related to sports injury. That is the thing where they will get very good information. If they depend on some sports injury prevention textbooks, all the textbooks what we have at present are based on some research work carried out 20 years before. We are still not getting updated. In order to update and compete with the growing physiotherapists in other parts of the world, we should start reading the articles published related to the syllabus. Whatever syllabus topic we have, we should also start reading some articles related to that syllabus. Definitely, then we will get more information than what it is available in the textbook. So that's what I like to say. Referring one textbook will, it's like we are not allowing the student to gain more knowledge. They have to gain knowledge means definitely they have to know how to do literature search and how to locate a article and how to read about it, analyze and read about it and collect information, gain knowledge. That's how it goes. I feel they should read more literature. That will be helping them in gaining knowledge.
Yeah, sir. Okay, sure, sir. Any students have queries, kindly to ask.
Yes, I have provided my contact number and mail ID in the first slide. Any queries, they can contact me or they can discuss with me in the mail ID. Just again, one more time, I'll just share it with you all. And first and
Well, it
foremost
was a
things,
very informative session, sir. Well,
the
it was a very informative session in your busy schedule, giving a special guest lecture to our students. And behalf of our Sri Balaji College of Physiotherapy, we would like to thank you very much, sir.
thank you,
And
Mr.
we
Bhagat.
would like to continue our webinar, sir. In future, we will be asking for you. You can give us many minimum webinars, which would be very useful for our students, sir.
Sure. Thank you. Anyone wants to
Thank you.
discuss anything else? If you have any doubts or queries, you can contact me in the mail ID given in the screen, or you can contact me in the WhatsApp number I have mentioned the screen.
Sure, sir. We'll ask our students if they have any doubts, and we will ask her to contact you, sir, because you are an expert in our field. So, we will definitely ask our students to ask you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Okay.
So we'll complete the session. Thank you all for the participating.
Thank you, sir.